Hey everyone, welcome and welcome back to my channel. So apparently, I didn't even know this, but there is a trending topic right now about pretty privilege. One girl went on TikTok and spoke about how there is no disadvantages to pretty privilege, how those women go through the same thing as everyone else goes through. And then another person did a video back basically saying like, listen, if you're not pretty, which you are not, the one who said it, then you're not going to understand the disadvantages of pretty privilege. And then everybody's just been putting their intake on it. So I'm going to include that. I hope y'all enjoy. I'll be back towards the end.
Y'all gonna be mad at me if I say the post where people be like, what's the downside to being pretty is misogynistic, fueled by self-centered women. There's no downside to being pretty, baby. That happens to most, if not all women. You're not the only one. Okay? They be in the comments like, we get sexualized. Most women do. Men think we're dumb. Men think a lot of women are dumb. Ugly, pretty or not, they think you're dumb. They think we're airheads, baby. Welcome to being a woman.
I'm gonna hold y'all hand when I say this. A lot of y'all are standing outside the club trying to get in, and that's why y'all don't understand this pretty privilege conversation. That's why y'all on the internet yelling that if you had pretty privilege, you would be driving in this kind of car. Not necessarily. That just depends on how you use your pretty privilege, how far you take your pretty privilege. Because pretty privilege is just something simple as the people have done experiments on how people treat attractive people versus non-attractive people. Pretty privilege is just simply that this girl is going to get in the club before you do, and she ain't got a pay. When this girl gets in the club, is she only going to use that pretty privilege to get in the club, or does she also use that pretty privilege to go work a man with some money that's going to put her in the car? Not every girl with pretty privilege is driving a car because of her pretty privilege. That's just you projecting your assumptions because you're outside the club and you can't get in. Most of y'all having this conversation. Anybody saying that there's no downside to privilege is outside the club and can't get in. Y'all gonna hate me for telling y'all that, but sometimes you just gotta look in the mirror. It's just like when we sit here and we're in our little tax brackets and we watch people in way bigger tax brackets than us go through depression and we can't understand how you got all of this and you still not happy. Because it's a downside to literally everything. Anything and everything can have a downside. Perspective and perception be have y'all on here tussling. Calm down and get in the club first before you make an assumption.
The downside to pretty privilege. Let's talk about it. So first thing I want to say is I'm going to tell you who I wish was on this app to handle this topic. Lip gloss. If y'all remember lip gloss, she would have tore this topic all up. I mean, she would have did it justice. I miss her. I wish she was on here to handle this topic. However, there is no downside to pretty privilege, like the girls are saying. It's not. And the girls who truly benefit from pretty privilege, they not on here making think pieces. You know why? They don't even talk. They get on social media and don't even talk. They don't open their mouth. They just look at the camera, make faces, and lip sync. And they got millions of followers, thousands and millions of likes for doing nothing. That's pretty privilege. That's pretty privilege. When you can literally get online and do nothing, and you just do well for doing nothing, you have pretty privilege, right? And that's usually how those girls navigate life. It's just as easy, right? And that's why they ain't nowhere complaining about it, because they live in an easy breezy life. All of the stuff that's being talked about as to the downside of pretty privilege, about women always being jealous of you, you not being able to make friends, men treating you bad. Men will treat anybody bad, right? That has nothing to do with your looks. It doesn't save you from being treated better, and it doesn't stop men from wanting to treat you bad, right? But that can go for any type of woman. Women being jealous of you, are they really jealous of you? Or are you still holding on to that thing your mama told you when you was in school that all the girls just was jealous of you, and you still think that to this day? You still believe everybody just jealous of you. Anytime you have any disagreement with women or women just don't like you, you go straight to them being jealous rather than looking at yourself in the mirror and realizing you just might be problematic, right? And that may be the reason why you can't make friends with women, is because of your personality and not your looks. At the end of the day, a good personality gonna get you further than them looks all day, every day. And that's just what it is, because when you show up with pretty face, nasty attitude, don't nobody want to do anything nice for you. And I don't care how pretty that face is. I don't care how banging that body is. It's only going to get you so far. You need to stop focusing so much on what you look like and start getting some personality up in that soul.
And this is honestly no shade, but I keep seeing the pretty privileged talk, and it's really starting to piss me off. I want you guys to know, I'm gonna grab your hand when I say this. It's so many pretty girls in the world. Being pretty is going to get you not far. You have to have a brain to sustain success off of a pretty face. If you don't have a brain, you're going to be one of those people who need a nigga, not want a nigga. Bitches like to be like, oh, I got this, I got this, I got that. Another bitch got this and that. And it's never smart to use your prettiness as leverage, because when you go into situations like that, they never tend to work out in your favor. And then that's why girls be like, oh, it has its downfalls. No, you're just going in it thinking that that's going to get you somewhere and not being strategic. That's why it's so important to be intentional, have discernment, and know what's for you, because you will keep getting played.
This pretty privilege conversation is proof that the sisterhood is not really the sisterhood. If you don't know what's going on, there was a creator that made a video saying pretty privilege is really just misogyny. People aren't treating you well just because you're pretty. They're treating you well because they want to do things to you. That's basically what she was saying. Another woman makes a video and says, well, how would you know, because you're not part of the pretty privilege community? We in the pretty privileged community, blah, blah, blah. And the women in the comment section of both of these videos are basically telling these women that they are ugly. So how do y'all know what pretty privilege anything? How do y'all know? Y'all are not attractive. And what I find ironic is when I made a video a few weeks back agreeing with a young lady who says, I know I'm not traditionally pretty. And I said, she's not pretty. She's an average woman, just like I'm an average woman. And we can have an average, beautiful life. What's wrong with that? Y'all were ready to fight me in the comment section because how dare I tear down another woman? How dare I tell her that she's not pretty? How dare you? Right? But now that it is somebody who thinks too highly of themselves, now y'all want to come in and humble that girl. Now y'all are in her comment section talking about pretty well. But I thought that y'all wanted to support each other and encourage each other and build each other up. What happened? What's going on?
In regards to the whole pretty privilege conversation, I can't be bothered to go back and see the root of all of this. I just think I know that people are, kind of debating on what pretty privilege is, if it exists, if it's a good thing, if being pretty comes with disadvantages, all those things, right? I think it helps to stop looking at things in absolutes. And what do I mean by this? Most, if not all, things have disadvantages. So it's disingenuous to say that being pretty comes with no disadvantages. That's just the truth. But overall, we need to take into account the net effect of being pretty or being white or being a man or being heterosexual, right? Things that generally are seen as privileges in society. Generally, the net effect of those things is good. You get what I'm saying? There is a positive net effect. And I think what often happens in these conversations is when people say, oh, well, maybe there's a certain disadvantage to being white mentioned, or it's almost belittled. Like, oh, wow, it's still a disadvantage. Even if it is a small disadvantage, that makes the point that disadvantages exist as a result of this attribute. The response should be, well, let's look at the net effect. Not, oh, well, that's not a disadvantage. Be so for real here. And there can be debate as to whether something is truly a disadvantage or not. But I think writing things off when we know, or maybe people don't know, but when something is an actual valid point and people just write it off as like, whatever, right? I'm not sure that helps to further the conversation. I'm not sure that you're actually getting people to believe what you're saying by doing that. Unless maybe people who already agree with you, I don't know. But again, in most cases, I think nuance helps. So try that moving forward, maybe.
So apparently pretty privilege is a topic right now, and I had no idea because I don't usually come on TikTok to speak about these topics. Like, you want some Zodiac humor? That's me, Zodiac Xena. But I had to talk about this topic because I just wanted to chime in. Like, this girl went on TikTok and she talked about how pretty privilege doesn't really have disadvantages, and they go through the same thing that other women go through, and there are no disadvantages, which I agree to an extent. And then another woman came in and was like, well, if you're not part of that pretty privileged club, then you're not going to understand the disadvantages, which I also agree with too. Like, there are going to be disadvantages to everything. Disadvantages to being black, disadvantages to being white, disadvantages to being tall, disadvantage to being short. Like, there's going to be disadvantages with every single thing. And again, if you are not that, you're not going to really understand that concept. But one example that I will give you is like, we all know that looks matter. It just is what it is. And when it comes to men, especially, like, it's considered a flex or even like to their ego, their pride when they have an attractive woman. Okay. The more attractive, the better. Right. And this is not my opinion. Just ask men. They know this. Okay. Looks matter. So, do you know how many times a man will completely, wholeheartedly lie that he has messed with a woman who is considered pretty, bad, whatever, when he don't even know her? Like, literally, will come with a bold-faced lie and be like, yeah, I mess with her just because his friend is interested or are seeing her get attention or whatever. Oh yeah, I smashed that. I mess with her when he don't even know her. Now, is that something that can happen to all women? Absolutely. And I know it has happened to other women. However, it seems that like they always do that to women who are considered like bad or attractive. And then that woman now has to live with the stigma of like, oh, you mess with this person, you mess with that person, when a lot of times that don't even happen. People just want to be associated with that woman. If it's a woman that's like maybe not everybody considers attractive or not really a flex to them, they don't really care to lie and do all that, because it's like, oh, you smashed her, oh, okay, but it's like if it's somebody, like bad or whatever, like, oh, you did that, bro, like when a lot of times that don't even be happening, that don't even be the case. And then we're not even going to talk about the weird people who go out their way, and I mean go out their way, to try to humble somebody who is attractive or might get more attention or whatever. They will literally go out their way to try to humble that person weirdly. And I'm not talking about the people who are confident and, give people compliments, all that. I'm talking about the weirdos. They will go out their way to try to humble somebody who is considered attractive. So, what do you guys think when it comes to pretty privilege? Like, I think most of us agree that it does exist, but do you think that there are disadvantages when it comes to pretty privilege? Or do you agree with the other women who are like, no, there's no disadvantages, all women go through this same thing? What do you think when it comes to this? Have you had any personal experiences when it comes to pretty privilege? Let me know in the comments. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, and I will see you in the next one.